Hi everyone, it's Catherine here from Inky Fingered Cat, and I'm going to have a little play. I don't know whether I'll end up making a full project with this or not, but I'm going to have a little play with the Merriest Moments bundle. So this is the embossing folder and then the dies. Let me just grab the dies out of here. So what I've done is I just thought I'd do a quick let's see how we use these things. So I've just cut myself a whole load of pieces of basic white that fit in the embossing folder, just so I knew that I was working with the same piece. Probably could have cut it a teensy bit longer, but you know, hey ho. So yeah, there's the embossing folder. So let me just have a look at what size these pieces of card are, just so you know. So it's 6 inches by 4.5 or thereabouts. And I'm going to grab my big shot, and then I'm going to show you sort of a couple of the combinations and how this works. Probably would have been sensible if I'd have got my big shot out earlier, but didn't think to do that. My big shot is so old now. And the handle is sort of falling to pieces, the bin that you pick it up with. Let me just see if I can show you. I don't know if I can get it into shot. You see it's all disintegrated. Bit revolting, but never mind. Can't quite justify, because it still works, can't justify buying a new machine of any description, whether the Stampin' Up one or another one from Sizzix. Can't quite justify it. Right, so this first one, I'm just going to do plain and simple. Let's have a look how the embossing folder works. So for my big shot, what I tend to do is, let me just double check this is the right, it's not that. Sorry, these embossing folders are that little bit thicker, so I can never remember the right bundle. It's not that, right. So it is on your Sizzix. You can see mine, say old, badly used. I keep it on tab 2, then I put my folder, and then I put my cutting plate on the top. And I'm pretty sure that's the right thing. Yeah, it's a bit stiff, but it's not as stiff as if you use it in the way that most embossing folders work. So that helps if you are using a big shot. There will be different instructions if you're using different kinds of cutting machines. That's how I use the embossing folder. So you can see here, hopefully it comes out nice and clear. Lovely deep impression. So there's the reverse of it for the deboss and the front of it for the emboss. So that's a plain and simple embossing folder. Automatically makes it into quite an impressive looking card. If you use that, you could stamp a sentiment, potentially add an image or something from the stamp set or another thing, or just an embellishment, you know, like the poinsettia in the corner or something. It would automatically make it into a pretty card. And you're going to bow, something along those lines. You don't need to do much in order to make it quite an impressive card just using the embossing folder. But this can do so much more than that. So there's sample number 1. Right, so this embossing folder and these dies are really clever, because you can actually take this larger of the dies, that's the open space that cuts out the outside of it. And if I can just work out which way it goes round, so it goes around that way. And you'll see it just sort of slots into place and sits nicely in it. And this is the reason why it's a little bit thicker and it's a very deep emboss on this particular embossing folder, is so that it'll fit the die like this. So I'm going to do the same. Pop my piece of card in there. Okay. And then I'm going to slide that through and run that through my big shot. I'll show you how that works. So again, oh, apologies, I'm wobbling the camera. It's quite a stiff one because it is a thick embossing folder, but hopefully, yeah, it's done it in one impression. So what you get now is you get an embossed, but the full piece comes out. So you see here we've got the piece with the background, and then we've got the piece on its own, which sits on top, or indeed you could layer it so it's different, so you get the different layers coming through underneath. You could use it on its own. Obviously you could just cut this out of a plain cardstock and have it as a layer. You don't need to do that. Okay, so yes, you don't have to emboss that panel, but again, you could use that as a panel on your card and stamp your sentiment, have something completely different behind it, maybe a pattern paper or something. Let me just grab, I can't find anything. Go. So this is just the painted Christmas suite, DSP, but yeah, you could put a pattern paper behind it, for example. Okay, so that's option number 2, with potential for an option number 3 if you just wanted to die cut that as a plain layer and not emboss it. Okay, of course that does leave us with a background, so the other thing that you could do is actually mount this up so that you've got some dimension and you're getting both pieces of it absolutely fine. Okay, so that's that and that. Next up, so I wanted to just bring this die out. Okay, so this die, grab a piece of the cardstock. This time I'm just going to actually run it through the embossing folder. You can through the machine. You can let me put it the right way around. You can put this in your embossing folder so that it will emboss as it goes along. However, you don't get a very deep impression from that. So this is the trick for this one. So this time we actually need both cutting plates and we need to put our cardstock down. Now, because of the fact that I know that this is likely to need 2 run-throughs, I'm just going to grab a little bit of washi to stick it down, because I'm going to turn the plates halfway around. So I'm going to do a double run and then turn. So I'll run this through big shot in one direction, then I'm going to run it back down in the other direction. Again, this is partly because my big shot is quite old now. It does sometimes need a couple of runs through, but you know your own cutting machine, don't you? You know what it's capable of and what needs a little bit of extra assistance on. I'm going to take a little look, and it looks like it's cut nicely on that now. So there's probably going to be some bits flying about at this point, because there are a few little intricate little pieces. There we go. So I'm going to take my die away, and then you can see here we have got a lovely intricate die cut. So if I just grab that original embossed piece, this actually fits over the top of that. So you could have a plain piece over an embossed panel in order to get just the embossing around the outside. Indeed, you could put this and alternate it in the way that it's been put. So that's the correct way around. So hang on. That will just give you a few extra little pieces popping out the sides. However, the bit that would be really interesting is if you could then emboss this, which you can. So the trick is knowing which way is the right way around. I actually realised it's that way is the best way. So the best way is to put it into the debossed. No, put it into the side that sticks out where you would have put the die. Layer it up like so. And then you just want to close the folder onto it. Give it a double check. It won't matter if it's slightly adjusted, it's slightly out of sync. It'll be near enough. There we go. And this time we'll be able to run it through the big sharp to emboss it as a single panel. So we have now got an embossed, very intricate one. We have an embossed, less intricate one that's got the solid pieces behind it. And we've also got the full embossed panel, like so, which it will sit on top of. And because it's got this nice ridge around here, you've got a nice bit to be able to sit it in, and it sits nice and smooth. Now the wonderful thing about these dies is we also have a panel that you can die cut for the centre, and that will give you something else that you can raise as another layer, or to add a different colour cardstock, for example. But it fits absolutely perfectly in the middle, and that is a stitched frame. So as I say, I didn't think I'd get around to doing an actual project today. I'm about to go and sit and watch telly with the husband, so now I'm going to stop. I have just chucked something on the floor, I shouldn't have done, but never mind. But I just wanted to show you how this really clever set works, and the sort of different options that you've got. What I'd really like to do is come and show you some of the mixed media techniques that we can do with some of this, but that's going to have to wait for another time. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that useful. As I said, this is the Merriest Moments bundle, but this is in particular using obviously the frames die set rather than, and the embossing folder that comes as part of this bundle, rather than the stamps necessarily. But yeah, absolutely loved playing with this. I've actually made two projects, one of which has already gone to somebody, so I can't show you, but I'll just show you the other one that I've made. So this was my first ever playing. I was literally just using scraps from the scrap folder, and at this point I hadn't worked out the trick of getting this piece embossed as well. So on this one I embossed the bottom piece, which is the Bermuda Bay, and then I did the die cut, which you can probably just about see there is actually embossed, which was this layer here, which I worked out how to do that and how to emboss that. And then this final piece I did in the Bermuda Bay again, but I didn't emboss it, and I'm a bit like, oh, I should have embossed it, but never mind. But you can see here it still looks really pretty. And then on this one I have used the stamps. I did use the frame, and I did Calypso Coral for the poinsettia, and Just Jade for the leaves and for the sentiment. So that was my first ever play. And then the little flower for the centre I just did out of some gold cardstock that I'd got lying around. Again, this was just playing and with some scraps. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please do give me a thumbs up. Hope you found it useful. Subscribe to see more. I have been promising crafting videos for ages and not really managing to get to them. So this is the first, and I'm hoping to get loads more play done this next few days and get some videos recorded for you. So until next time, bye bye.